And we are live. Welcome back to the James McGee Show. I am your host. I am James McGee, and we have Tom Wells, Rich Grumman,
I
and
got it right.
we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna dive into it tonight. So, first thing, of course, let's talk about what we drinking. Tom, are you drinking anything?
I am. I am drinking a little special. This is called Ancient Cave Collection. I got this at the Holiday Brewery when I was at the FBI National Conference in Kansas City. They opened up their brewery. It's kind of like Buffalo Trace. And an interesting fact about that place is that the water that they used was the same water that Lewis and Clark used to. They had a little spring there, and they got their horses a little drink. So, in honor of Lewis and Clark and the great Americans, here's to you.
Rich, nice. What you drinking?
Well, in my Cincinnati Reds mug right here, I have a little Jefferson's Lost at Sea.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff.
It is. It's very good. I hadn't had it yet. I've had Jefferson's, but I haven't had the Lost at Sea.
Jefferson's Ocean is one of the best.
Yes. It's incredible. Customer.
A little heavy. That's more of a winter bourbon for me because it's a little, it's a little heavy.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, this was the first time getting it. It was a gift from a customer. I sold them a Mercedes, and they were very happy to have it. So, and I was very fortunate. This is the second one that I sold them. They were nice enough to come back and see me after about a 7-year absence being there. So, very fortunate and thankful that they gifted this to me, and I was able to find them the perfect Mercedes.
Very cool.
So I'm drinking. I'm going back to my go-to, which is Jameson. I've been drinking Jameson probably for about 2 weeks. I've been, it's not as cold as where y'all are, but it's getting cold this week. So right now it's hot tub season for us, and so I'm in the hot tub. And if my daughter's here, we're in the hot tub almost every night. So. This has been my hot tub drink, but when I get on something, I get on it for about 2 weeks and then I switch to something else. So let's dive into what's going on in Tennessee, and I'll give the just an overview. About a week and a half ago, tragic incident where a man, early 20s, executed his girlfriend in public right after a heart walk, I believe it was, some sort of charity walk.
Breast cancer. Breast cancer. Okay. I just remember that because it struck him.
So he shoots her, kills her. The police pursue him through 3 counties. In the process, he tries to run over 2 police officers. When they finally get him stopped, they had to drag him out of the car. He was armed. Now, he didn't on his person. He didn't have it in his hand, but they still could have justifiably shot him. They get him out of the car, and they punched him in the face several times. He wasn't handcuffed. I did not see or hear anything about him being handcuffed of any of the strikes. 6 deputies were indicted for excessive use of force. I think it's a complete travesty. I'm not saying that he should have been beat because of what he did. Now, he should, but you can't do that. But I think it's a travesty, and we wonder why we cannot get young men and young women to do this job anymore. Good young men and young women. This is such a domino effect and such a bigger deal. This is a bigger deal than we are making it. A lot of times we make big deals out of stuff. This is a bigger deal. We have to make a big deal out of this because there's so much coming. We talked a couple months ago, Rich. I don't know if you were with us on this. On the lady that was shot and killed by the deputy, Tom, with the boiling water. She was.
Oh, yes.
He shouldn't have been a policeman. Well, you know what? When you can't recruit good, strong, moral, brave men and women, That's what you get. So it's a bigger deal than we are making it. Give me y'all's take on just this incident.
Well, I'll just jump in real quick. To me, one of the critical things, just to sort of dovetail right off of what you said there, is that for us to have qualified people, they have to be not only of good character and good moral background, but they have to be critical thinkers. And that is a perfect example, the one you just talked about with the lady with the pot of boiling water, that was a situation where that officer could not think quickly and what would be the appropriate response to a situation like that. My feelings on this case here is that, to me, anytime you have a situation where a person is violently resisting, particularly after such a heinous crime, and he is not giving himself up, until that person is brought into custody and is restrained, you can use whatever force is necessary to bring that person into custody. And I've had situations in my career where I've used what are called softening blows, where I was punching a suspect to get them to relent from resisting my ability to put their hands behind their back before backup officers got there. And to me, whether you hit somebody in the face or the gut or wherever it is, you should do what you need to do to get that person to comply. And once the compliance is gained, then it's over with. And to think that people could be indicted for doing their jobs and to try to protect the community from someone like that guy is it's sickening.
Now, Rich, let's say that they did give him 4 extra blows to the face. Is that indictable? Or do we have to remember we're dealing with fucking human beings who are emotionally charged, who this guy tried to kill? And I'm just saying, I don't even know if they gave him 3 too many. But even if they did, how do we handle that?
You're dealing with people that are, their adrenaline's going. They are towards the upper torso, trying to get the upper part of their body, the head area, trying to get hands behind. They may not even see. You may have other people coming in. How many officers were standing around in that video? 9, 11? I mean, I lost count. I don't even know if I remember how many were there. But all these people are coming in. And then you also, they may have given him some blows. And if you look at the use of force chart, the head is a red area. That doesn't mean that it's off limits. That just means that those blows are as a risk of being life-threatening. They should only be used as a last resort. The video that I saw, I still haven't seen body cam footage. I don't know if either of you have seen that body cam footage, but this is taken from behind a chain link fence. The car is sitting down in a culvert, and we can't see him getting drug out of that vehicle. We can't see where his hands are, how close or where that handgun is on his person. And if it's, if I'm in that situation and I don't know where that handgun is and no one's cleared that car yet, you have to take that next level of force up in that use of force continuum and believe that if you can't see his hands, he may have his hands on that handgun. And you're going to make sure that he doesn't kill himself. You're going to make sure that he doesn't kill one of your fellow officers, and you're going to make damn well that he doesn't kill yourself, because you don't want him to kill himself. So you're giving those blows. Yes, they're in the red zone that, a use of force continuum is going to say, but you're doing that to protect his life, because he may be trying to raise that gun to kill himself because he's trying to get away from you, and you're sitting there trying to save his life. So no, it's not an indictable offense. And there was a sheriff that I heard a news report on. One of the 3 sheriffs, he came to the defense of his officers, and I wish I could remember where I saw
all 3 of them did, Rich. All 3 of them did.
Well, yeah, there you go. Well, that answers my statement right there, James. That's good for those officers and those sheriffs to have their backs. That's true leadership right there.
I just want to make a clarifying thing too from what Rich was saying about the head area. You're absolutely right. But if we're talking about blows to the head by the fist, that kind of softening blow would be okay. I think what Rich was referring to more is like strikes with an asp, or like tasing someone about that.
These are all hand strikes. These are all with fists.
Yeah, just to clarify for our viewers, when we're talking,
sorry, yes,
you're fine.
This wasn't Rodney King. This was not a Rodney King beating. This was not. They punched him in the face.
For the people watching that, that's only for actual weapons that we use and where they're supposed to be deployed. As far as like Rich said it exactly, there was a preferred area versus a non-preferred area. But when it comes to using your hands or your own physical force, there are generally no off limits for that.
So what I get tired of hearing too is, well, if it was anybody else, if it was a citizen, civilian, they would be charged. Well, that's an apples to oranges comparison. You can't compare what a policeman is being tasked to do. When you task a citizen, okay, you can compare that. When you're tasked a citizen to go take down an armed bad guy who just killed somebody and tried to run over a policeman, there's no comparison because the scenario is not the same. So that's not something that flies with me. Not a reason. It should be what a reasonable person. It should be what a reasonable police officer. And I think any reasonable police officer would have done the same thing.
I believe 100% behind you that exactly what happened. But here's the thing: if you're going to look at a reasonable citizen, if a reasonable citizen actually stopped him from getting in his vehicle after he shot this young woman in the park, and a reasonable citizen, if they had to use this much force and if they had to punch this individual in this piece of shit in his face and they caused this bruising, would they be getting indicted right now? No, they'd be getting awards. They
should be getting awards.
Exactly.
They should be getting awards right now.
Right. Just like these officers should be getting awards instead of getting indictments by the grand jury. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So our friend Jeremy Trahan, he's got a good point. Seems like a district attorney problem. Yeah, Jeremy, this is exactly what it is, district attorney problem. And I went off on him on TikTok this week. His name is Danny Goodman. And Danny Goodman probably won't listen to this, but anybody knows him, send it to him. Danny Goodman, you're a piece of shit. And you are the problem. Now, let's dive into this, into the recruiting part. And then I'm going to tell you all a story about something that's going on locally right now here. People like Danny Goodman are why we can't get good men and women. The district attorney, and we got really involved, really heavy involved in the politics and the elections of our district attorneys. And this is the main reason. It wasn't because to get favors, to help friends out. The reason why we got heavily involved in the election of a district attorney for the last 20 years is specific this scenario. I wanted, and our sheriff and our other administrators wanted to ensure that our deputies were protected and safe. I shouldn't use the word protected because we've had deputies that got arrested. We've had deputies that were wrong. But I can guarantee you, with the two district attorneys that we had during that 20-year tenure, our deputies were not getting fucked over by them. So yes, Jeremy, the district attorney is a very, very important to your agency. And I think that police officers should get more involved in the district attorney races.
And if I can for a moment, because you're talking about that, and I wish I had prepped a little bit, knowing that I was going to say something about this. And Tommy, you'll know what I'm talking about once I start actually focusing on it. I'm the vice president of a lodge here in Hamilton County. And we're just a fraternal lodge. We don't represent the officers and their unions for their departments or anything like that. We're just a fraternal arm of our FOP. Some of the officers over the last 2 weeks have been bashed in the local media by local politicians and by our local sheriff. I caught part of her press conference today, and I do not want to bring up the incident because I hate the fact that they're bringing this incident up so often, that it's giving it traction, which is what these sick individuals wanted to happen. Their hate speech is not what we need in this country or in this world, especially in Hamilton County, but by them continuing to do it. Anyways, the sheriff of Hamilton County referred all footage from her officers that were at this incident to the newly elected Democratic prosecutor here in Hamilton County. These officers that responded from the incidents and the news reporting only that I've seen, from all the agencies around, they did exactly what they were supposed to be doing. This was from what I can see, a lawful, peaceful protest. These officers from all the agencies did exactly what they were trained to do. They diffused the situation, kept all parties separated, and ended the protest, the march, the parade, whatever they wanted to call it, and got those pieces of shit out of the area. And politicians are not happy with it. The sheriff decided to send all of her deputies' body cam footage and all their information down to review to make sure that they didn't do anything wrong. Along with, she even pointed out that along with the Ohio Revised Code. Why would you do that? You have an internal affairs division inside your department. Why do you have to give this information to the prosecutor that potentially could lead for your deputies, your officers to be indicted? That's what happened here.
I can answer that question, Rich, because Connie Pillage is not a friend of the police or law and order. She reopened a case that's probably 4 or 5 months old now, where in another suburban agency in the Cincinnati area, officers were confronted by a bank robbery suspect who opened fire on them in the foyer of a Kroger's grocery store. It's all on video. He's shooting at them right from the foyer, and they're just outside the doors. And their officers bravely, that was Corning Township Police, bravely responded to this person and used force on him, lethal force, and took him down. And there were all kind of citizens right there that could have been injured by this person. And this case, which was reviewed by the former Republican prosecutor and was not presented to a grand jury because the evidence was very clear, it was all on video, is now being reopened by Connie Pillage. And it's just, I don't understand it. I don't know where this is going to go in terms of law enforcement in Hamilton County, but I can tell you it's in the wrong direction.
It is, and James, I'm sorry to take over like that.
Oh, no.
The way you were talking about the prosecutors, the way you were talking about how elections have consequences, the way that how this is going to impact recruiting, I can see it. I'm sure that it's going to have a ripple effect throughout our county, throughout our members, and I mean, I'm grateful and I'm glad that one of the agencies involved, they aren't making the statements, because I want to speak up and say that our officers didn't do anything wrong, and that they did everything that they should have. They diffused the situation. They got everything moved out of the area. And the only people that are continuing to talk about this are the damn politicians. And there's no reason to. You just shut up and you move on about it. And that's the end of it, because that's what these idiots, these assholes, that's what they want. And I don't mean to keep talking about it. That's why I'm not mentioning who they are or what they're doing or what they did, because it was nothing but hate speech and it doesn't need to be here. But those officers with rifles, open carried by both sides, they put their lives in danger in between these two hate groups, and they protected everyone and diffused the situation, which is exactly what the Democrats and people like Connie Pillage and Charmaine McGuffey, the sheriff, have been doing and asking for years, is diffuse and communicate without violence. That's exactly what these brave officers did. And I'm 100% grateful, and I stand 100% right side by side with them, as I know Tommy does, because we know some of these officers.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's is exactly what's wrong. And look, the sad thing is, that's not exclusive to Hamilton County, Rich. That's going on all over this nation. And that's where, we've, traditionally, especially your municipalities that both of you were employed with, stay away from politics. And a lot of, like here, our city police, our state police, they're banned from getting involved in politics. Well, I don't agree with that. First off, I think it's a First Amendment issue. You're silencing them. I think policemen need to get involved in politics because this is the result. And I can tell you that if you're running for office in my parish, and you don't have, if it's shoot any office, man, judge, state rep, DA, if you don't have law enforcement support means everything here. They want to know who the cops want. If somebody's running for judge, they want to know who the cops want. So that's something we have that's really precious here. So I hate that that's going on, and my thoughts are with those officers, and I hope everything works out. So, and if y'all any more comments on that, because I want to move on to a story. I'm gonna try to keep it condense it a little bit, but and I don't comment too much.
I think that just real quick along what you're saying is, if you're going to go buy a car, you're going to ask the mechanic what the best one to buy is. And it's the same way with when you're going to go vote for a judge or a district attorney, you're going to ask the cops because they're going to work the closest with them. They're going to know how they are. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's like these. Get me on this damn. I don't know if y'all's agencies, and this is normally bigger ones. I'm sure Cincinnati probably has a citizen review board. Do they have that in Cincinnati? Well, that's about the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of. And let me tell you why. In Louisiana, you have licensing for, you have the medical boards, you have the bar association, you have all these regulatory license, for licensed professionals, right? Plumbers, licensed plumbers. Well, I guarantee you that everybody on the plumbing board decides who should get a plumbing license, who should lose their plumbing license. They're plumbers. Everybody that's on the medical board deciding if doctors were wrong or right, they're doctors. So why the fuck do we have some pansy ass pencil dick on a citizen review board that has no idea what a fucking policeman does? It makes absolutely no sense. And these citizen review boards have got to fucking go away.
Tommy, that was what.
That's another, because we're targeting tonight recruiting. Well, who wants to go work for an agency that's being scrutinized by people who hate police? Most of these citizen review boards hate fucking police. So why the fuck are they reviewing them?
Well, and really the bottom line for me is I don't really care whether a citizen review board likes the police or not. They don't have the background to understand what it is we're doing. That's all I ask. Like, I don't have a problem at all sharing with the public. When I worked, as the chief of my department, we were happy to share information with the public. We were a very media friendly agency. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be having people, and one of our council people proposed this to our city manager that they wanted us to be subject to a citizen review board. And I told them that's, both myself and the city manager were in agreement that was a terrible idea, and it didn't go anywhere from there. But to me, what's important is to be judged and reviewed by people who understand what it is that you're doing. That doesn't mean we should get a blank check or that we should be rubber stamped in what we do. But just like you said a minute ago about doctors and plumbers, et cetera, I want someone that understands what I'm doing. If I'm explaining something to somebody, I would much rather explain. If I'm going to talk about police work and a decision I had to make, I would much rather tell you two what happened and let you, from your differing backgrounds, but with your expertise and training in law enforcement, answer the question. That makes sense. If I came to you right now and said, I had a situation today where my train went into emergency, and they're saying that I did something that caused that, as opposed to it just being a mechanical issue. What are you going to say to that? What do you know about it? Nothing. And that's just like a citizen review board. They know squat about it.
Let me take my two trains and see if one can do the exact same thing.
Tom, when you were chief, you know who the review board was? You and your command staff. Right. You know who the review board was for us? The sheriff and his command staff. And Rich, your agency, same way. Mm-hmm. If you don't like the direction agencies go, then change the leadership. That's what elections are about. So you don't need that. Let's give a little shout out to our friend Sean Singleton. He's on your ass tonight, Rich, pretty good. Which
I know he's sending me. He's sending me messages as well. He's talking about, ask him about his neighbor's dog.
Sean, good to hear from you. And let's get you back on pretty soon, man. We'd love to hear from you and hear some more Rich Crumman stories with you.
He's drinking his black magic spiced rum. He just sent me a message.
Well, good deal. I'm glad. Here's to you, 2 Finger Tuesday. Here's a toast to our friend Sean. So I'm gonna try to keep this condensed. And look, I don't get involved too much in local politics anymore. But this is so I'm gonna keep it more of a general scenario, because what's going on here is classic of what is going on throughout the nation. Now, there's some politics involved in this because there is a mayor's election going on right now. So it's with our city police department. The chief, the mayor's up for the elections in a month. Now, the chief's up for reappointment. The mayor's reappointing him, and it has to go for a city council vote. Now, be upfront with chief. The chief, stand-up guy. A good friend of mine, he's a stand-up guy. The mayor, he's a friend of mine. He's a stand-up guy. One of the city councilmen that is raising some questions, he is a stand-up guy, and he's a friend of mine. But there's some politics involved. There's a state rep here who's a former judge who is just a troublemaker. I don't have a problem with him. Him and I always worked pretty well together. But he's a troublemaker, and his son is running for mayor. So there's some politics involved. But this scenario is interesting. So the chief goes up for reappointment, and they vote not to not reappoint him, but to defer it because they want to look into some things. And one of the things that they're looking into is minority representation amongst police officers. So they went and did the research. The city is 50% black, 50% white. 15% of the officers are black. So now this state rep and then the city councilman, who's a friend of mine, who is a good guy, they're raising some questions. So I'm going to give this more in a general scenario because we don't have real radical black or white. We don't have real radical anti-police. We don't. But here's interesting. This is what came when I started thinking about this. So here you have in the last 5 years since George Floyd has been nationwide, and we had protests here, right? And let's go back a little further. 2016, out to Sterling in Baton Rouge was 2 hours away from me. 2014, Michael Brown. So the last 10 years. Well, think about this. These officers we are recruiting right now, they're what? 21 to 25-year-olds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where were they? They were in high school. They were in middle school. And they were being told how bad the police were. They were actually, and some of them were involved in these protests, right? They were watching, and I'm not saying I'm giving a general scenario. I'm not saying our city councilman that I'm talking about, but look at people like Maxine Waters that gets up there and just trashes the police. These city councilmen in Minneapolis, they get up there and just trash the police. Then they want to turn around. All right, you're going to get up there and trash the police. Your constituents, you're telling your constituents how bad the police are. And you're going to turn around and criticize the police leadership for not having a bunch of minority officers. It's not their fault. It is your doing. It is your fault. So to me, these city councilmen that are jumping up and down about it, state reps or in any city, pastors, black pastors, to me, they now have a responsibility to go out and do the recruiting. They have a responsibility to go to the schools, to go to these organizations and say, hey, we need you to be part of the solution. So I don't think you can have it both ways. You can't defund the police, trash the police, and then when this generation that you've been trashing them to is eligible to be police, complain because you don't have enough of them. That's to me, this is a absolute direct result of what has been going on in this country for the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say it's been longer than that. It started under the Obama administration as a national thing. And
well, Michael Brown was the biggest one in 14. That was a big deal.
And but see, here's the problem. You don't ever have any followers. Everybody talks about Michael Brown and that incident, how it turned Ferguson on its ear. But the FBI Civil Rights Division, who, if anybody knows anything about the FBI, if the FBI Civil Rights Division's crawling up your rear end and there's something to it, they're going to find it. And they completely exonerated.
With Eric Holder as AG.
with Eric Holder as AG.
Yeah.
The officer, his name is right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of his name.
I know it, but I just don't say it. I know it, but I just don't say it.
But anyway,
I think the man should be able to live in peace. But yeah, he's a good. He was selling. The last time I heard, he was selling cars in the St. Louis area.
Really? Well, anyway, the long and the short of it was he was completely cleared by the FBI Civil Rights Division, as he rightfully should have been, based on the evidence that was there. But you don't ever hear that follow-up story. And it's just the way our country, I think the vast majority of people out there, just like you said, the people that ask want to know what the cops think about the prosecutors or the judges that are being elected, the vast majority of people out there support us and know that we have a difficult job and that we want to do our job and protect them. They're good people, and they know that the vast majority of police officers are good people. But it is unfortunate that it's the same mainstream media that constantly beats the fan of they fan the flames of this division and this let's beat up on the police and let's talk about how terrible the police are. And again, it's no wonder that our recruitment numbers are low. When I was at Springdale, as the chief of police in 3 years, I hired more black officers and promoted more female officers than any prior chief in the Springdale history. And you know why I say that? Because it has nothing to do with me being chief. What it has to do with, I had the best candidates for those promotions and for those hirings, and they happened to be the people that they were. It had nothing to do with whether they were women. It had nothing to do with whether they were black. We just hired the best candidates, period. And that's something I always respected about that city, is they wanted to hire people of good character and the best candidate who was the best fit. It was never about, let's meet some quota. And that's where you run into problems, is when you start setting quotas and start setting, we don't have enough representation of this or that. If we for years tried marketing our hiring to historically black colleges, to radio stations in Cincinnati that tailored their programming toward the black community, and we hardly got any applicants at all. You can't make people want to be police officers, and that's, to your point, that was then the society this day and age, is that it's people who heard all that bashing. They don't want to be cops. They want to do something else. And it's really a shame, because as we see in our government right now, people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who don't have to do this work that they're doing it for nothing because they want to do the right thing for America. And I'm hoping that we're going to see that tide carry on through to people that want to be police officers.
Well, I don't believe, and I've expressed this on this show several times, I'm the biggest anti-DEI person on earth. But what I do believe in is minority representation. But there's a difference. It's not about quotas. It's not about just filling in, checking boxes. I do think, especially in police work, in law enforcement agencies, that having representation from that represent it should, I believe it should match your city, but sometimes that's not reality. And if it doesn't match your city, like it's not matching in my city right now, who do you have to look at? It's real easy to look at. It's not. I tell you this. I know this chief very well. I know this mayor very well. That's not on them. They're definitely trying. But what they're not, I also know this chief, what he's not going to do is lower the standard. And that's not, they're not turning away. It's not in these recruiting events that they're having, they're not turning away a lot of black candidates, or any more black candidates than they're turning away white candidates. They're not getting the black candidates. So whose responsibility, again, Rich, I want to hear your opinion on this. Whose responsibility is it to get the minorities in this community to want to become police officers?
I think it's the community as a whole, because I think that I grew up, it's the family business, as you guys know. You either became a butcher or you went into law enforcement. As much as my dad wanted me to be a fireman, I took the wrong test still. I became a cop, and it's the greatest calling that you could do, in my opinion. But I think that it's, whether it's, and I think that you have to have the heart for it. And no matter what nationality you are, what race you are, what social economic background you are, you have to have the heart for it. You could be the son of you could be Barron Trump and say, Dad, I want to join the FBI. I don't want to go into real estate. And you could also be, a kid that lives down the street in the trailer park, and hey, I want to join the FBI. That makes you equal because it's what's here, and it's nothing else. And it has to be the community as a whole. You have to see what's around you. You have to see what your parents are doing. You have to see what your friends are doing. And while you can have all the recruiting events, you can have all of the advertisements, you're gonna get maybe less than 20% that are going to show up and say, I got nothing else to do. I'll go take a test and see what I can do. There's good pay and benefits. With a good 80% of us, we do it because of what's here. I mean, I remember, when I signed up for Cincinnati after getting out of the Marine Corps, it was you went down to City Hall at midnight as soon as and you stood in line. You got a number, and those were few and far between. We had a couple hundred people that were down there in those days, and I was number 12 in line, and a friend of mine went down with me because he had nothing else to do that night. And we sat out and we played Nerf football in the parking lot of City Hall, downtown Cincinnati. Signed up for the test. He actually got hired on because he scored higher than I did, and I ended up at the sheriff's office. I know some twin brothers that were on my beat in Norwood, and one, he's trying to take every single test he can. They're both black, and the one that they come from the same background and everything, and gosh, they're twins. What he used to chase us up and down the streets while we were chasing his brother, and he'd want to he that's all he wants to do now is be a police officer. And he called me every now and then asking for a reference for this police department, for that police department. So I think it really just boils down to what's right in here.
So I totally agree with you. But you know what, Rich? Young men, young women need guidance. They need somebody to bring that out of them. They may have it, but somebody needs to say, hey, you have what it takes. We need you.
Well, and honestly, I think that it can come down to, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that, like with the young man that I talked about, I mean, there were beat officers like myself and like the guys that I worked with in Norwood. I mean, it was nothing for us as much as it kind of started out with us, getting, being kind of shitty about it and having to walk a beat, but that whole community policing aspect of law enforcement, getting out, walking your beat, meeting your neighbors, meeting the kids. It comes down to those officers. I looking back on my career, that community policing aspect, as much as I complained about it in the summertime, walking in the heat, and it's probably worse down there with your humidity and everything down there, James, but I think it comes down to the beat officers. Your beat officers are your front line. They're your face of your department, and they're the ones that are going to pull that out of the citizens.
Sure. And when you think about it too, think of the people that we have working as police officers. If you've got people that don't want to interact and don't have a heart for it, as you said, Rich, and they're not interested in getting out there in the community, that's going to reflect, on the people that are then interacting with them. They're going to feel like, the police here don't care about me, or they're not interested in me. But if you get out there and you are walking and you are mixing it up with people that are on the street, and they get to meet you, and you have citizens police academies, you're building a group of people that understand, hey, this is what it's like to be a cop, at least from their perspective. And you're gaining people who will go out in the community and say, hey, look, I know Rich. They may have had to use force on this guy, or they may have to do this or that, but I know him, and I know if they had to do something, they did it right. And that's what's so important about that connection. I couldn't agree more, Rich.
So I'm going to say this and close out this topic, and of course we'll close out the show with talking about our favorite subject, some politics. See what's been going on. It seems like every 7 days that we talk is like 7 years, because Trump is moving so fast. But we'll get into that. So I'm gonna close this out with a message to any and all black leaders in our nation and in every community. So here's my message to you. I agree that we need more Black police officers, but I also going to challenge you. It starts with you. You cannot jump up and down because we do not have enough Black police officers in this nation. While you are defunding the police, trashing the police, telling your constituents, which we're drawing from us as police departments, you have got, it starts with you. You have a responsibility to support the police. Now go voice your opinions behind closed doors with your leadership if you have some problems. I get that. But outside of those doors, you support the police, you support the department, and you get into the community and you tell young Black men and women, we need you. We need you as police officers. That's how you start getting more Black men and women, young men and women to be police officers. It starts with the leaders that they respect. When they respect you and they follow you and you're just down in the police, why the fuck would they want to be a police officer? So you can't have it both ways. That's my message. So, Rich, what's been going on the last 7 days that's excited you with what Trump and them are doing?
Well, I spent most of Sunday, like probably a percentage of America, waiting out a rain delay, watching the Daytona 500, wondering if Trump was going to be there in victory lane with whoever won. But I thought that was the coolest thing, watching Trump fly in, coming low across the speedway. That was just unbelievable. And then to bring the tank and everybody, and then to lead the track again. And I was just sitting here on the couch watching, and I'm flipping through when they started the rain delay after 11 laps. I'm flipping through my old Snapchats, and it was 5 years ago to the day he was doing the exact same thing with Melania.
Really?
And yeah, and it was like, I thought the coolest part was his granddaughter was there right with him. I mean, and you guys, being fathers as well, that was just super cool. I mean, that right there was just, and I know I'm going back probably to the beginning of the week, but watching Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth being out with the troops and doing, morning PT and everything. When I think of one of my leadership traits is, I'm not going to ask my troops to do anything that I wouldn't do. And you're right there shoulder to shoulder with the people that you're leading. And I mean, it's probably never happened where the Secretary of Defense has gotten out and done morning PT with any of the sailors, soldiers, or Marines that they've been over. And that is just super awesome. And I'm still just waiting to hear on Kash Patel, because I can't wait to see how he's going to lead the FBI.
Well, I was telling my wife tonight that the Democrats are somehow delaying this vote. They know they got the votes, but they're trying to get their shit together before hell breaks loose. Because when that man gets confirmed, hell is going to break loose in a good way. It needs to break loose. So I think they're figuring out how to try to prolong this as long as they can, Tom. So they know hell's coming. Hell's coming with him. He's coming, and hell's coming with him.
Hell's coming with him. I think my favorite thing that I saw all week was when Mark Fogel came back from Russia. To see this guy who's just an ordinary American citizen, served several years in a Russian prison, and I can't think of his name right now. The Trump's negotiator, is it Mark? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember his name. But anyway, the guy he's going to Israel. He's all over the place brokering these deals. And to see him come in there and watch how Trump so gallantly handled him coming in there, he could have very easily stolen that whole show and said, look what I did. Look at this guy right here. Da, 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 da. And he totally took a backseat to the moment. And I was so impressed with how he has changed. I mean, yeah, I got to admit, the first time when Trump was president, I loved what he was doing, but I didn't want to see him. It's just do your job, and I don't want to have to hear or see you, because he would say and do things that I thought were kind of just, it wasn't for me. I just couldn't deal with it. And this time around, and I watched an interview with him where he talked about how getting shot really changed his his whole kind of his moral compass and his perspective on things. And I've seen several examples where he has just been so gracious and been willing to let other people talk and give other people the spotlight. And it kind of goes to, like you were saying about these different cabinet appointees. Everybody keeps saying, well, the people on the left are all saying, well, these are just lapdogs that he's got in there, and all they're doing is kissing his ass. What I'm seeing is a group of people that are not afraid to say what needs to be said, including J.D. Vance when he was over there in Europe. And these are people that can stand on their own 2 feet, and they have something to say, and it's impressive as hell. And Trump's letting them do it. He doesn't come on afterwards and say, well, let me explain this, or let me take credit for this. He's letting them do their job. So that's my takeaway.
And you know why? Because now you're 100% right. Each one of them are their own man and their own woman. But here's the key. Unlike the last fucking clown show administration that he put together, they have one agenda. That's the difference. They're not lapdogs. They're not lapdogs, but they have one agenda. So no, I agree with you. And Tom, for 8 years, I said this for 8 years, that I liked the ideas that he had. I like what he stood for. And I said this so many times to people. The problem with Trump on the first term, why he didn't get the things done, he couldn't work with people. He pretty much was fuck you to everybody. Right. That's a whole different Trump we have right now.
Right.
He is.
His cabinet was flipping constantly.
Dude, he's working. He is working with. It's been amazing to see how humble
it's a different fuck you to people.
He's fuck you, and you're right, Rich. But he's you know what he's doing? He's playing chess. 8 years ago, he's playing checkers. He's playing chess now, and he's fucking winning. Yeah. So my take from the last week really wasn't political, but in a sense it was. Last week we talked about the debacle of a Super Bowl. But look what happened since then. The U.S. national hockey team. That is what America is. America is, you disrespect our national anthem, we're going to beat your fucking ass. Yep. And that's what happened. Look how great this was. And it was impromptu. It wasn't something that was staged. It wasn't something that was planned. They booed the national anthem. As soon as the buzzer went off, they took the gloves off, started whipping their ass. That's America. America isn't kneeling for the national anthem. America isn't having a 20-minute halftime show about hate and shaming people for being white. That's not what America is. America is, you fuck with our country, you disrespect our country, I'm going to beat your ass. Beautiful. That was my favorite thing of the week.
Yep. Agreed.
So what do y'all in closing, what do y'all think is the most important thing? I think we pretty much said it, but in my opinion, Kash Patel is the most important thing this week. He's got to get confirmed quick. He's got a lot of work to do. What's the most important thing, Rich, to happen in the next week?
Well, there's Kash Patel, definitely. And then Vivek's announcing his run for governor on the 24th.
How's that going to go? Y'all Ohio boys, how's that going to go? Hands down win or what?
He's extremely well-spoken. I don't know much about him, but from what I've seen, he's sharp as a tack.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter as much as popular. It's a elections popularity contest, and it's about name ID. Who could give him a run for that
in Ohio?
Yeah,
nobody really. I mean, I don't. The only person I can think of on the Democrat side of things might be Sherrod Brown, who got unseated in his Congress seat by Bernie Moreno. I don't know, and I don't even.
Well, y'all are gonna have a Republican. Y'all gonna have a Republican governor. Y'all were strong.
Yeah,
y'all have Vance, the vice president. It would, to me, it's not even a. So is there a Republican that could beat him?
Oh no, not right now. I don't believe so.
No. Yost, I think, is announced, and that's the only other one. He's the attorney general. But I think and on the Democratic side, our former medical director Amy Acton is, I think, whatever her title was.
Do y'all have primaries? Like
yes,
y'all have party. We don't have that. Do y'all have party primaries so the Republicans have to run against each other?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So y'all think he'll be the Republican nominee?
Yeah. It'll be him or Yost. I mean, Yost is also very popular, but the thing with Vivek is he's got national name recognition.
Yeah, and it's energy. When I used to run when I used to run campaigns, the first thing I'd say in the first meeting that we have, whatever candidate, I would tell them, the key to it is create energy behind you.
Yeah.
Yours might be respect. I don't know. He might be respected, but it's gonna, especially right now, it's going to be about energy. Energy is going to win this race.
Yes. Well, they're definitely two different personalities, but if either one gets elected, we'll be in good shape.
Well, that's good. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. And I think Vivek will have the backing of Trump, and that'll bring in a lot of the support that he'll need.
I agree. I think you're right, Rich.
So I'll comment on this. Sean's comment. You're right, Sean. Fathers, and it could be the same thing said with in every race. But yeah, there is a problem in the Black community with having active Black fathers, and that is a big deal. And I think that's something that has to be noted. So, until and anything before we go, anything before, I guess we'll just wait and see what this week holds.
Spring training games start on Saturday.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right, until next time, McGee, Wells, and Crummon are